Direct from the Six, world-renowned, Canada's largest city, with Canada's biggest thinkers, visionaries, and hustlers. This is Startup Talk, featuring the founders, funders, innovators, and community leaders who've led Canada's startup ecosystem right here in Toronto. You'll hear the challenges, the failures, the successes. Toronto's Startup Podcast gives you the full story direct from the entrepreneurs and influencers who've made a difference. Now, the host of Startup Talk, the founder of TorontoStarts, the Startup Coach.
What advice would you give to founders about spotting the hidden tensions within their industry, products, or customer bases?
There's the biggest one I would say is start to pay deep attention to failed sales calls. You know, it's very easy for us to let our ego get in the way. And I can tell you so many times, Craig, that, where I had a bad sales call and I tried to blame everything. Oh, the prospect is not smart enough. Oh, the prospect, they don't have any vision, blah, 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 right? But once you get through the disappointment and your own ego, you have to go and study them. And I'll give you an example. Nowadays, especially with ChatGPT, shove the transcript into ChatGPT and ask, what tensions are evident in this call? So I'll give you a great example. Common tensions that commonly play out. The tension between innovation and predictability. Because people think innovation is unpredictable. Okay, that's really showing up in the language. You can figure out how to solve that problem. Another common, tension that might come up is people believe that anything that's new should also be cheap because they believe they're taking on the risk, right? And so that's another tension you can resolve. Another common tension is, people really value products based on how much it costs. And this is ironic because every time we increased our prices, we sold more. And this happened consistently for us over the course of the 7 years before exit. So it's counterintuitive, but, leverage AI tools nowadays, shove transcripts in, analyze them. Tell ChatGPT, hey, I want you to act as a cultural anthropologist, and I want you to analyze this transcript and tell me what are the tensions inherent, what's not being said that's implicit in this transcript. You will learn a lot about how to manage the human side of the sales equation or of the client management equation.
And some advice on that. That's great because I'm working on automations with a few clients. And one of the automations I'm working on with one of them is recording their sales call, transcribing it automatically, getting the sentiment, getting objections, getting some of these other things, not necessarily tension. So I'm going to add some scripting to that.
Yeah.
That automatically goes into an objection handling spreadsheet, into all these stuff that all the sales team has a look at now because they can say, okay, here's the transcript. Here's, it was positive. The customer viewed it as negative and a few other things. If you're doing that automatically so that you're not having to take those extra steps and you can really look at it and you can share that with your team, starts really building the conversation. And people really need to start looking at simplifying that and making sure they're collecting all of that data so they can improve.
Absolutely.
Where do people go to find out more?
You can go to Investment Arc, but ARC is spelled with a K, so investmentark.net. That's my investment company. So if you're a startup and you need some assistance, that's where to find me. And then, of course, my newsletter, Decision Lab. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Please don't hesitate to connect with me. And again, Craig will have a link to my LinkedIn profile as well.
Yeah, and all that'll be there. And I'll throw a link to the newsletter in the chat on LinkedIn. I see a couple of people asking it in an hour or so after the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you all for the great questions. And thank you for the great interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Startup Talk, Toronto's startup podcast. For more exclusive content, the episode vault, and to be part of Toronto Starts community, visit TorontoStarts.com. Get your name on the newsletter mailing list and check out our upcoming events. For more episodes, subscribe now. And please recognize the time and work behind the scenes put into connecting you with the biggest visionaries, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Toronto by leaving a 5-star review. Join us for more next episode from Toronto's most active entrepreneur and startup community on Startup Talk.